Welcome to The Advocates. I'm Aaron Dean. Columbia University is suspending two campus organizations. One is pro-Palestinian and the other is a Jewish organization. Columbia says that the clubs violated university policies about holding campus events. Members from both groups have called for a ceasefire in Gaza. The clubs are suspended until the end of the fall semester. The Council on American Islamic Relations is condemning the university's decision. New York's governor is expanding the state's terrorism task force to help fight anti-Semitism and other hate crimes. The NYPD Hate Crimes Task Force reported a 124% increase in the number of bias incidents. According to the governor, that spike was led by a more than 210% jump in anti-Semitic incidents. The governor has deployed state police to protect houses of worship along with other locations.
It's painful to me as the governor of this great state that has been known for its diversity and how we celebrate different cultures, different religions, different viewpoints. It's painful to see the cruelty with which New Yorkers are treating each other everywhere from college campuses to our streets, to schools, to playgrounds, even as they're entering their houses of worship.
New York also has a hotline to report hate and bias incidents. Since October 7th, the rise in anti-Semitism has been mirrored by a rise in Islamophobia. The Council on American Islamic Relations reports an unprecedented 216% jump in requests for help and reports of bias incidents in the last month alone. The organization says that the wrong community is being blamed for what's happening in the Middle East.
There's a common habit of blaming people of color for things they had nothing to do with, simply because someone who looks like them or shares their beliefs did something wrong.
Right.
But also we have to keep in mind that there are people who are very deliberately using dehumanizing anti-Muslim and anti-Palestinian language to not only justify the killing of Palestinians in Gaza, but also to silence supporters of Palestinian human rights here in America. So a lot of this is happening because of a deliberate campaign of bigotry.
Several groups are now calling for the resignation of a Florida lawmaker who allegedly said all Palestinians in Gaza should die. It happened while State Representative Angie Nixon was speaking in support of a resolution calling for a ceasefire. Nixon was talking about the 10,000 Palestinians who have already died so far when she heard a fellow lawmaker, now identified as Republican Michelle Salzman of Pensacola, shout, "All of them."
How many will be enough? I also, one of my colleagues just said all of them. Wow. One of my colleagues said all of them.
Nixon is calling for Salzman's censure. Salzman released a statement saying that she was referring to the terrorists that attacked Israel. The Department of Justice has allocated over $38 million to combat the spread of hate. Domestic terrorism expert Daryl Johnson says that these ideologies embolden hate. And so how can these ideologies and beliefs kind of contribute to extremist groups in the U.S. when it comes to attacks on other marginalized communities?
Yes, so how these ideologies or beliefs, these conspiracy theories against Jews as well as Muslims, they serve as a radicalization and recruitment tool for extremist groups. So they'll use the ruse that, the Jews are, secretly controlling the crop prices in the farmlands. They did this back in the 1970s and 80s during the farm crisis to recruit people into racist hate groups. And some people, got to the point where they believed these conspiracy theories and they either directed the anger and hatred inward and committed suicide, or they directed it outward and attacked, banks and Jewish synagogues and things of this nature. So much like back in the 80s when they exploited the farm crisis, extremist groups exploit Israel's war on Hamas to gain new recruits and radicalize people. They put a spin on things to make it seem like, that the state of Israel is just out to annihilate another race and that they're committing hate crimes and things of this nature. So we see how they come in and creep into these situations. So when we had the downturn in the economy in 2008 with the housing bubble collapsing, they would come in and say, hey, the Jews caused this. They, caused the stock market to crash because of implementing poor, economic policies, or actually by, a direct plot to, cause this economic downturn, and everyone suffers because of it while they get richer and more greedy. So these are the types of, perceived conspiracies that white supremacists and black nationalists here in America have used to radicalize people and to get them to commit crimes, and whether it's hate crimes or whether it's terrorism against Jews and Muslims.
And as we wrap things up, we mentioned how the DOJ is currently investigating and combating hate crimes. What does that strategy look like? Kind of explain that to our audience.
Yeah, so the FBI is in charge of gathering hate crime data from all the different police departments across America. Some police departments, believe it or not, do not participate in that. There's actually a couple of states that don't even recognize hate crimes, so they don't report it. However, what the Justice Department means is they monitor it through this hate crime reporting system, and then when they see upticks in this, hate crimes, whether it's against a certain faith-based community or whether it's in a certain geographical location, they will conduct training both for law enforcement at state and local level, as well as those faith-based communities affected, to just increase their vigilance, to try to build relationships of trust so that they report suspicious activity to the FBI and their state and local police. Department of Homeland Security has a grant program where they put money into physical security measures that both synagogues and mosques can implement in their local congregations. Put up surveillance cameras, change the locks, put up fencing, have steel doors at the entrances instead of glass doors, things of this nature. So it's both a reporting program as well as a hardening of the places of worship. And that's how DHS and DOJ kind of have this tag team approach to preventing hate crimes.
And Daryl, any final thoughts?
So, we need to remember that we have groups here in America that hate Jews, and this is anti-Semitism, and it spans both, hate groups on the far right as well as hate groups on the far left, and that these groups use anti-Semitism as a way to get people to, come into their movements and to be indoctrinated and taught, in the ways of their hatred, and also hopefully what these groups are trying to do, not hopefully, but what these groups are inspiring to do is get, those who are on the verge of committing violence to actually act out on that violence. So we need to be careful and report, changes in behavior, anti-Semitism, that we see among our neighbors, coworkers, friends, and even family members. Talk through these issues, try to resolve them, show these people that you care and that you want to include them, and hopefully that would dissuade them from gravitating towards these conspiracy theories and these extremist movements.
Thanks so much for watching The Advocates. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store. I'm Aaron Dean.